I also had the experience of developing kind of a resentment towards my mother, worrying about that she couldn't do the same things that normal moms could do. Like she couldn't take me places, and she couldn't walk for long periods of time. And I felt really frustrated, and I felt mad at her. So looking back at that now, as a parent with my own chronic illness, it makes me feel extremely guilty, and I feel really bad about that. And that's one of the reasons I was so inspired to do the work that I'm doing now, to teach children about learning how to communicate with their parents who are sick, and just having a family learn how to talk about these difficult problems instead of developing resentment and anger. Then, when I was about 20, I started developing my own. So it was my turn to be sick. And then that's when I realized, oh wow, now I feel really bad for how I felt about my mom. So I have something called mixed connective tissue disease, which is similar to lupus. It causes joint pain, fatigue. I also have fibromyalgia and autoimmune liver disease. So it's been a challenge. I have severe chronic pain and fatigue almost every day. It took 11 years for me to get diagnosed. So I understand that a lot of women with the Willenbrand disorder can have a very long diagnosis period. Did I pronounce that It was, some of the doctors told me that what I was saying wasn't real. I felt like maybe I was making it up, or that I had something wrong with me psychologically. So it was a long diagnostic process. It was extremely stressful. I was also ready to start my life. I had met my husband. I wanted to go to graduate school. I was prepared to do all these things in my life, and I had to go through, the stages of letting go of all of that. It was a very difficult time. But as you can see, I'm here now today, so I've come to adapt to my new life, and I have been able to overcome some of the feelings of maybe feeling sorry for myself, and I'm able to do a lot more with my life than I thought I could actually do when I did get diagnosed with illness. Now, what do you guys notice about this picture? Anything strange about some of these kids? So you may notice that these kids, these are my kids. They are abnormally large. So my husband and I are both pretty small people, but for some reason, some horrible twist of fate, we had these giant babies. Both of our kids are off the charts in terms of size. So both of my kids, when they were by the age of 12 months old, they both weighed as much as a normal 2 or 3-year-old baby. So I have severe back and neck pain. So you can imagine a bit cursing my fate at the genetic makeup of my children. These giant babies having a lack of babies and pick them up every day. So having children, they're beautiful and I love them so much, but they're huge. And I'm going to talk about my kids. So my first son, Jimmy, he was born in 2010 and developed, of course, as many of you know, I'm sure there are a lot of moms in the audience, you develop a love that you never knew could exist. It's beyond anything that you ever thought possible, the love of your children. But when you have a chronic illness, you get a mix there. When just a couple of weeks after he was born, I went into a massive flare, which is, the perfect time to have a flare, right? You need to be in bed and taking care of yourself, but oh wait, there's an infant that needs you 24 hours a day. So it's exhausting. And that just exacerbates, the problem. So a lot of times I found myself just completely overwhelmed and I wanted to give up. and sometimes it felt like I just couldn't go on. I had a lot of stress during that time. I would put him to bed, and then I would just go and just lay on the floor and start crying. How am I going to do this tomorrow? So it was a roller coaster of emotion. I tried to depict my roller coaster with beautiful emotive runs over here. Okay, then Lucy was born. This is my daughter. She's 12 months old. Beautiful little girl. So again, I had another flare after she was born. This time it was actually worse than the first flare. The worst part about my experience with Lucy was that my back and neck pain it became much more severe. So I would hear her cry, and I just have a conditioned response to. I didn't want to be around her. I had a conditioned response that when I heard her crying, I could just start feeling the pain in my back. So that was a challenge to overcome. So I had to teach myself again to connect with her with love and to learn how to decondition myself from just remembering the pain and the stress with lifting her and feeling that pain every time I had to care for her. So that was something I never expected would happen. So when you have experience with a chronic illness, you have these problems that you just don't expect, and you have to learn how to overcome and adapt to them. So I'm learning how to cope with those things. Obviously, with parenting, you never know what's going to come next. So you learn how to overcome. So this is kind of my motto here. So I'm going to talk about self-care now. You can't depend on Superman or anyone else to come rescue you. The only one you can depend on is yourself. Let go back. I was watching this movie with my 5-year-old son, and that just kind of came up to me. Because I specifically remember when I first got sick, I was like, okay, so when's the rescue truck going to come and take me away? When's Superman going to come? When are the guys in the white coats going to come take me to like a rest to rest and recover? I just had this idea that someone was going to just rescue me, and it felt like a process of realizing that no one's coming to rescue you. This is something you have to overcome, whether it's your child being sick or whether it's yourself. You realize you have to struggle to get through it, and you can get through it once you learn that. Depending on yourself that's the first thing that I had to learn to start recovering and to develop the strength to go on and take care of myself and my children. This is a great movie. Recommend if you want to show it to your kids. It's a lot about. There are some messages of self-advocacy in there that I recommend. So when you're struggling with a chronic illness, you are your own best advocate. So when I first got sick, and I'm sure many of you have experienced, when you first go to the doctor, based on movies and what you read and what you experienced, you just expect that they're gonna say, "Oh, hi, I'm gonna save you. This is great. I'm gonna do research. I'm gonna look into this." But a lot of times you realize you leave the doctor feeling a little disappointed and wondering, wait, what just happened? What am I supposed to do? And it can be terrifying because you do feel alone. So I realized that I was going to have to start working on doing my own research, looking into it myself, getting outside support besides from the medical community. The doctors, they do well. Sometimes they just have an overwhelming load of patients, and they just don't have the time to look into each individual case. I remember when I was about 20 years old, I went to the doctor, and she basically told me that it was all in my head. And she recommended a book. She just kind of sent me out the door. So that was a very frustrating experience. I believed them. I went home and I started feeling really bad about myself. And, okay, this must be in my head. I must have made this up. It's not real. And actually, for a couple of years, feeling like that it wasn't real and that I must be doing something wrong. I need to go see a psychiatrist. I need to see a therapist. But I started to develop strength and confidence in my own body, trusting my own body. And I finally found a doctor that believed in it. It's a huge relief when you find a doctor. And if you do see a doctor that doesn't support you and doesn't validate you, go find another doctor because they're just not worth it. One of my rheumatologists, she insisted that I had rheumatoid arthritis, which I found interesting, but I didn't believe her because that's brought in my family. It didn't fit the symptoms. I didn't have the hour-long difficulty walking in the morning. She kept insisting, you have rheumatoid arthritis over and over. So she prescribed this medication called methotrexate, which is really dangerous for the liver. And she was like, hey, have you ever been tested for liver disease? Have your liver antibodies been tested? No, I don't think so. I don't know how I would have known that. She's like, oh, well, you had a kid. They usually do those tests when you get pregnant. We can just skip the test. It's okay. Then at the last minute, she's like, let's just do them just in case before we prescribe. Because when you take this medication, it can cause liver failure if you have a liver problem, which turns out I have autoimmune liver disease. So I was really frustrated at that experience, and I never saw that doctor again. So when you feel something's not right in the office, or you feel like they're not listening to you, trust your instinct, trust your gut. Go see another doctor. Get outside support and resources. So like I said, doctors are wonderful. They have a lot of resources that we don't. They have a lot of experience with other patients that may have gone through similar situations as you. But they're not miracle workers, and you need to treat them as partnership between you and your doctor and your